Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our free webinar on new caregiver immigration pathway into Canada 2019. And it says 2019. This is because the pathway, this new caregiver program started in 2019. So it's a new caregiver immigration pathway that started just last year. Again, welcome to our free webinar. If you are joining via our Zoom, welcome. Please, please go ahead and if you have any questions, please do write them down or type them down on our chat box that is in Zoom, and then I'll be happy to go ahead and reply to them. If you are joining us in our Facebook Live page, please enter your comments or questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to look at them and answer them during this live webinar or live stream. Hello, Mary Beth. So yeah, so it says here one comment that I have received 2019 question mark. Yes, because again, this is a the new caregiver immigration pathway started in 2019. So yeah, and this one will go for the next 5 years from 2019. So a lot of time. And yeah, so if you are joining us in our Facebook Live stream, please do not hesitate to like and share us. Share us to your friends and families, to a group that you think will benefit from this free webinar or free live stream. Hello, Jason. Welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and get going. So my name is Israel Roman, and I am your licensed Canadian immigration consultant, and at the same time, a registered nurse here in Canada. And yes, I am both a licensed immigration consultant and an RN practicing. I'm still actively practicing nursing here in Canada. Good evening, Martina. And we have our offices here. One would be our main office here in Canada, which is in Nanaimo, BC. And we have one in the Philippines, which is located in JP Laurel Highway, Lipa City, Batangas. So if you guys are near Lipa City and you want to visit our office, you are welcome to do so. Please, yeah, we would welcome you to drop in our office. So, what is the new caregiver program really in that was implemented in 2019 or started in 2019? And it says here pilot. So it is the home child care provider pilot and the home support worker pilot. When we say home child care provider, that would be our nanny. When we say home support worker, that would be the caregivers looking after elderly care or elderly clients with disability, that would be the home support worker. Okay, so what's new about this one? What is so good or what is so great about this program that started in 2019? So now when a caregiver like you apply to come to Canada, you are essentially applying for an open work permit. Okay, and your open work permit is occupation restricted only and not employer. Meaning to say, when you come here to Canada, you are only allowed to work either childcare provider, nanny, or home support worker, caregiver, but you may work under any employer, right? Because on your work permit, it won't say who your employer is. So you're not tied with one specific employer. So the advantage on this one is that if things doesn't go well between you and your employer that originally hired you, you may choose to go to another employer without having to apply for a new work permit. So in essence, there'll be a possibility that you won't have any gap in your employment, right? So you may say your last day of employment would be on Friday for for your original employer, and then your start date for your new employer would be the Monday right after that weekend, right? So there's no gap. So that is good. That means your time is not it's not wasted, for lack of better terms. Right? Yes, there is no fixed employer. Okay. And the open work permit, which is directly good for the employers, is that the employers, they don't need to have LMIA or labor market impact assessment. Before, this one was one of the barriers for them to hire foreign workers, is that they have to apply for LMIA, and there's a lot of that are it's a longer process for them to hire foreign workers, and it's there's expense attached to this one when they apply for labor market impact assessment. Now they don't have to, which is directly great for the employers, indirectly great for you as a caregiver, because now there are now more employers looking for foreign workers. And the other new thing about this one is when you apply to come here as a caregiver, you are applying for an open work permit and a permanent residency. Okay. And when we say permanent residency application, that means you are on your initial application, you already applying for both open work permit and permanent residency application, or permanent residency. You are not waiting for 2 years before you apply for your permanent residency. You're applying for both at the same time, and you need to be approved and qualified for both as well. So, and then after working for 2 years, then we will just need to submit your proof of employment that you did complete your 2 years of work as a caregiver or as a nanny, and then immigration will release your permanent residency status. But when you come here, essentially you are already approved for your permanent residency. You just you're just missing one criteria, which is the working for 2 years. Go ahead and Jason, just go ahead and type in your question, Jason. Thank you. Okay, so there'll be questions around this one, around can I just go ahead and apply for an open work permit and take care of my permanent residency application later on? The answer to that one is no. Unfortunately, you cannot apply for only your work permit. You have to apply for both, and you need to be qualified for both before you can come here. There's question on how do we seek in for employer. That is a great question, and we will be tackling that one later on in our slides. And I'm pretty sure you guys will be happy about that one on our great news when it comes to employer, right? So Okay, so here's the so now, okay, so I think I would, yes, that would be great as a caregiver. I would good to come to Canada on an open work permit and permanent residency, but am I qualified? Okay, so the first one is, of course, the immigration would have to take a look and see, do you have a genuine and valid job offer? Okay, when we say genuine and valid job offer, your employer will have to provide at least 30 hours of work in order for it to be considered full time, right? So offer a full time work, which is 30 hours per week at least, and then at the same time, the immigration will take a look at the employer's financial ability in terms of, is this employer able to pay you as a caregiver? Does the employer really have children for you to look after, or does this employer really have an elderly that needs to be looked after, right? So first you need to have a genuine and valid job offer. Sorry, and we'll show you how you'll get this one. Next eligibility would be able to do the job, right? So IRCC or the immigration would have to make sure that you are able to perform the job description as a nanny or as a caregiver. And in order to prove this one, we would need your recent caregiver course or training or experience or something equivalent. And it has to be recent. Okay, so it has to be within the last 5 years. If you had your education probably 10 years ago, but you are still practicing nursing, or you are still you're still practicing as a caregiver, then that is a qualify. You'll be able to tick this one off. If you have nursing as your background and your education was 10 years ago, but you are still you're still practicing nursing, then yes, you are considered able to do the job. So this one will be ticked off for you. Okay. Next one is meet the language level. So if you can recall on our previous slide, this application is for both open work permit and permanent residency. So meet the language level would be targeted to for your permanent residency application. And when it comes to the language level, they would only need a CLB 5. So in Ielts, this would be only 4.0 in reading and 5.0 on listening, writing, and speaking. And I know some of you might have some challenges in terms of getting the score that you need in Ielts, not because you're not able to, not because there's a lack in your when it comes to English, but I think it's more of the fear or the anxiety soon as you enter in that exam room and take your IELTS exam. So I'll have a great news for you guys later on. So just stay tuned on how are we able to help you as well manage this one or overcome your anxiety and have confidence when it comes to taking your IELTS. Next, sorry, there's a spider web on my throat. Next is a meet the education requirement. So when we would be also targeted to your permanent residency application. And what they're needing is 1 year post-secondary course or 1 year college. So this could be tricky if you are coming from the Philippines and you haven't, and on your for your education, you didn't have grade 12 at that time. Because if I'll give you an example. You graduated during the time there is no grade 12 and you have a 2 year associate degree. What will happen or what will happen when you have your credentials evaluated? Your first year college is now considered your grade 11. Your second year college is now considered grade 12. So in essence, you are still missing that 1 year post-secondary. So it would be safer if you have 3 years of college. If you didn't have any, then if you didn't have grade 12 during your time, right? Or yeah, so if you did have grade 12 during your time, it would be safer if you have 3 years in college, and way safer if you have a degree, which is a 4 year degree course. Next is admissible to Canada. This one would be is targeted for both your open work permit and permanent residency. And when we say admissible to Canada, that means you don't have any criminal records, no misrepresentation, and good health. There's a question on, are we allowed to work part-time? Yes, as long as it is under the occupation on your work permit, which is either nanny or caregiver. Will you give us some training? Unfortunately, we don't provide trainings, but we are able to provide some modules, some great resources when it comes to, let's say, dementia care, right? Does being a volunteer nurse or caregiver count? Yes, but you will have to make sure that you have the proper documentation, proper documents to prove really that you have volunteered as a nurse, or you've been volunteering as a nurse or caregiver, right? So that would be great if you're volunteering as a nurse in a company wherein you're able to provide a certificate that is under their that is printed on their letterhead, business letterhead, and yeah, so just to make sure that it looks very, very authentic. Because what happens is when an applicant applies for visa with an immigration, the immigration consul would always have the thinking that this applicant, whatever this applicant is submitting, is not authentic or is fake, right? And this applicant has bad intentions of coming to Canada. So that is the way they're thinking. So they have to kind of like, now your application, the objective of your application is to change their mind, right? That's how they're trained, right? So because they're protecting of course, their country, right? So yeah. All right. Next. So spouse. So since this is an open work permit and a permanent residency application all at once, your spouse and dependent child or dependent children are included in this application. So when you get approved, that means everyone is approved, your spouse and your children. And when you fly to Canada for the first time as a caregiver, your spouse and your children will also come with you, right? So they won't be you won't be waiting for 2 years, 2 to 3 years before your spouse, children flies to Canada. Everyone flies to Canada at the same time, right? Okay. So for your spouse will get an open work permit. The difference is that for you, as the caregiver, it is occupation restricted. For your spouse, it is not occupation restricted. It is the usual open work permit, not occupation restricted and not employer restricted. So your spouse can work anywhere, in any job, in any company, any employer, as long as he or she is qualified. Yes, so can work in any employer, any occupation. Now your dependent child will be coming as a study permit and would have the benefit of taking advantage of the free education that Canada provides, which is up to grade 12. So with this one, you are already earning a greater income than if you were working back home, you and your spouse, and at the same time, your children is getting the best education for free. So employer, this is this is the I think this is the biggest question that everyone has, and I just want to make sure that it is clear for everyone. We are not a recruitment agency. Even though we have office in Lipa City, Batangas, we are not registered with POEA. And the reason why we are not registered with POEA is because we are not a recruitment agency. We are a Canadian immigration consultancy firm helping clients get their visa, Canadian visa. So we don't need to be licensed with POEA, and that's why we're not licensed, because we are not a recruitment agency. But how are we able to help our caregivers come get an land an employer and come to Canada, right? So even though it is your responsibility to find an employer, we are here to help you get one. Okay. There's a question on, can my relative be an employer? And the answer to that one is yes, as long as your relative is able to prove that she is a genuine employer. So to be considered a genuine employer, so your relative, she needs to be able to give you a employment contract or a job offer that would show at least 30 hours of work per week, and she also needs to prove that she has the financial ability to pay you as a caregiver or nanny. And at the same time, there is a, if if she's hiring you as a nanny, that she has children that you'll be looking after. Right? But relative, yes, a relative can be your employer, right? It doesn't stop them from hiring you, and you won't get denied because, oh, your employer is your relative. No, you won't be uh, you won't be denied for that reason. So yeah, so your relative who have children or have elderly parents, or if any elderly that they are trying or they are supporting, right? So advantage in joining with us, all right? So advantage in being part of our caregiver pool. One is 50% on the immigration consultant's fee. So as an immigration consultant, of course, we do charge we have our professional fee. And usually this is being taken care of by whoever's applying for the visa. But in this case, we are able to negotiate this one that this is paid by the employer. Now, in order to also help in the negotiation process, we have brought our consultant fee down to 50% discount kind of things. So that would kind of like help the employer and help you as well as knowing that this now we're trying to negotiate with the employer that they shoulder the consultant fee. It won't be that bad anymore because now it is 50% off, right? So and the other the other advantage on this one is normally if you have a spouse or children, there's additional retainers fee for them. But for this one, for joining us because of this webinar, we are waiving that one. So if you have a spouse and you have 4 children attached to your application, normally that would be another few thousand. For this one, there won't be any additional retainer fee, which is great. Now, I did mention about the Ielts. How are we able, like that we are able to help you get the score that you need when it comes to the Ielts? So by joining our pool, our caregiver pool, you will receive also free unlimited Ielts review. Okay. And I am confident that once you have taken this advantage, the free unlimited Ielts review, taking the Ielts exam would be a breeze, would be walk in the park. And you'll get the score that you need and even higher than what you need. And also, this one includes your free Ielts exam, so we'll take care of the fee for your Ielts exam. And the biggest part is that we will represent you to our Canadian employers. So we will be would be posting your profile, your great profile to our Canadian to our websites that are targeted to Canadian employers, and our social media posting and networking. And when we say networking, because being here in Canada would have a greater advantage than an agency that is only in your country and not in Canada, because having a Canadian presence would mean that we are able to directly talk to the employers who are looking for caregivers or nannies. Okay, so and the other thing, if you can recall on the first slide, first or no, the third slide, I did mention that I am both licensed Canadian immigration consultant and a registered nurse. So in my work as a nurse, I'm able to see which patients are needing caregivers later on when they get discharged, or when I have when we have patients needing 24-hour care when they get home, or they need more care when they get home. People would kind of what our social worker or liaison would refer a list of a company that is able to provide caregivers and or nannies, and our company is one of those company, right? So again, that would be a great advantage on your part, because we are here in Canada and we are close to those clients, to those employers that are potentially needing caregivers or nanny, right? So just like the other day, someone approached me saying that, hey, my I have my wife is still in the hospital, had a fall, and now is we would be needing some help because my wife won't be able to ambulate or mobilize as much as she can. So I would need some help, and I'm an elderly as well, right? So I won't be able to help my wife as much as I want to. So we need a caregiver, right? So so for those employers, then of course I would be choosing. I would be kind of like handing him resumes that are on my caregiver that are in our caregiver pool, right? So I would be asking. I did ask the client on what would be his requirement, right? In terms of what would he want in his caregiver. So this is a good advice that I think it's a great advice that I would be giving to you guys, because I'm pretty sure at one point you might have had someone giving you advice on how to come to Canada, giving you advice on your permit, on your work permit, on your visa, how to complete the application, and all of those things, right? So if they are not your relative, they need to be licensed with Canadian Immigration Consultant of Canada Regulatory Council, or ICCRC, right? They need to be licensed with ICCRC. They would need to take the education when it comes to immigration policy. And then after taking the education, they have to take the license exam and be an active member, right? And that's what I am. And so if someone is giving you those advice, or they said that they're licensed, you can go to the ICCRC, and you do your own research and see really if that person is still licensed with ICCRC. And here you'll see that you're able to find complaints. If you have any consultant that you want to complain about, you can go ahead and log your complaint here. And of course, if that person is not licensed with ICCRC, then they won't be able to do anything. So you hit the public register, and then search for this person. So last name, let's say my name Roman, and first name is Israel. You hit search, and you'll see it in here. Name, status is active, and this is the ID number. And when you hit contact, it would show where I am based out of from. So it says here in Nanaimo, BC, Canada, and the company is Roman and Associates Immigration Services Limited. Okay. So that's one way of making sure that the agent that you're working with is licensed. Then the other one is the company. Make sure that the company really exists. So for Roman and Associates, since this one is in Canada, you can go ahead and search if the business really exists in Canada Business Registry, and it would say here find business within Canada, and it says British Columbia, and type in Roman and Associates for this one. But then of course you'll type in whatever business name if they're in Canada, right? So it says right here Roman and Associates Immigration, and it is a BC company, and it is active, right? So there you go. So those are the two things that you can do. So if the business is not in Canada, then you'll have to kind of like see how you'll be able to search if that business really exists in that country, right? Now, finding an employer. So I did say that I am here in Canada, and you can also use Google as well to see if the person that's giving you advice, you want to see if there's anything that you need to be worried about. Is there any red flag, right? So let's hit Google and search. So let's go ahead and search for Israel Roman, and I'm from Nanaimo, so Israel Roman Nanaimo. Okay, so on the right hand side, it would show you Roman and Associates Immigration Services Limited, and this is from Google. It has 5 stars, so that's great, and it has the address of Nanaimo, and we're closed. Opens at 8 a.m. Yes, we are still closed because it's only 5:41 a.m. at the moment, and yeah, and that's the number right there. Now, on the left hand side, try to see if there's anything about that name, the agent's name, or the person that you're working with, if it shows, and if there's anything that you need to be worried about. All right. So for Israel Roman, what can we find here? Okay. There's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's Indeed, there's yes, so there's Nanaimo Bulletin. So maybe this one is more credible. So it's from a Nanaimo Bulletin. So it's like a newspaper. So the Nanaimo Hospital Auxiliary donation of 300,000, and that's Israel Roman NRGH Intensive Care Unit, Telemetry, Medicine, Floor. There you go. Okay, now let's see some pictures. Who this Israel Roman is in Google. And let me open mine, maybe just to compare. Okay, let me fix myself. Okay, perfect. Fix as much as I can. There you go. Okay, so this is myself giving a small thank you speech to the Nanaimo volunteers. This is from the Nanaimo News Bulletin. So you'll see that this picture right here, giving a speech, is the same as what you can see here in our webcam. Let's click on another picture. So this is another picture of myself. Nanaimo in BC local news. So Nanaimo Hospital gets 340,000 BC local news. So that would be there in the middle, holding a big check right there. Let's click on one more. This is myself again, touring a visitor in our hospital. Are there any more? There you go. I think that's it. So now you got 3 ways of trying to make sure that the person that you're working with is legitimate. Okay. Next, now finding an employer still. So Home is Best Caregiver Services Limited is one of our company here based here in Canada. To be specific, based here in Nanaimo. So this is our recruitment agency here in Canada. So this business is licensed recruitment agency here in Canada. And the purpose of this business is for our Canadian employers looking for a caregiver or nanny. They come to this business, to this company, this office, to ask for caregivers or nannies. Okay. So, and we have you can visit our website as well. So this is our site, Home is Best Caregiver. And again, this is targeted for our Canadian employers looking for caregivers. Okay. The other one that we have is the Nannies on the Block, which operates 95% online. So with this one, it's the same thing. It is connecting our caregivers, our nannies, to our Canadian employers looking for caregivers or nannies. So in terms of finding an employer, even though it is your responsibility, we are able to greatly help you, right? One, with our Canadian presence, and with I think with myself being an RN, I am close to those clients that would potentially be needing caregivers or nannies. And we have our recruitment agency based here in Canada where the employers are. We have our online uh, online platform, Nannies on the Block, which again it is to serve the Canadian employers looking for nannies and caregivers. I think our us being here in Canada has a greater advantage of finding you an employer than an agency that is based in your home country, and because they won't have the connection, right? They won't be able to liaise with the Canadian employer the way we are able to, right? So that is the biggest advantage that we have, and that is your advantage in in uh, in our uh, joining our caregiver pool. Okay, so coming to Canada as a caregiver and nanny, how much really is the wage right now? Right? Is it worth it to come to Canada and invest the money, the all because for sure there is a expense attached to this one, but is it worth it? Okay, so caregiver right now, the median Canadian median wage or average wage would be $16.50 for a home child care provider or nanny. That would be $14.11. That is the average. Okay, so let's do a sample computation of this wage, right? How much is this really in a year? Oh, look at that. And there's a question on ask about salary. Perfect. So just in time. All right. So wage sample computation. So let's say you are receiving let's say you're a nanny and you're in the median wage of $14.11. So you'll be working, let's say, 40 hours per week. That would give you $564 per week. Okay. And in a month, that would give you 2,256. And in a year, that would give you $27,000. Okay. All right. So 27,000. It sounds small, right? So how much is this really if we convert this one to Philippine peso? So that would be, if we convert that, that would give you almost 1 million pesos per year working as a nanny on a median wage, and 947 $520 to be exact. And that is only working as a nanny on a median wage. What if you're working as a caregiver? Median wage, that would be $16.50. So with that one, you'll be surely getting more than 1 million pesos per year. And this is only you. What if you have a spouse? And again, your spouse will be coming with you, and your spouse will have an open work permit as well. The only difference is he can work anywhere. So let's say he is also earning close to $14, 14.11. So that would be another million million pesos for the family per year, right? Now, if you have children and your children is with you and you took advantage of the free education from grade 1 to 12, then you can also think of that one as your family income as well. Like, think if I was still back home sending my children to school, how much would their tuition fee be? Now, use that, and then that number right there would be added to your family income, because now you don't have to pay that tuition fee, because your children will be getting the highest quality education here in Canada for free. Okay? I hope that answers the question with when it comes to salary range for caregivers and nanny. Okay? All right. Of course, with that potential income, of course, there is an attached expenses, right? And with this expenses, I would think of this one as an investment. Okay, investment on yourself, and the investment wherein you have control over the return of investment, on how are you able to get your investment back, right? And it's almost the same as putting up a business or having an online business, wherein you still need to shed out money. And let's say the business would be entrepreneurship in terms of you buy a product, package one, package two, package three, and once you have uh, selected a package, then you'll receive all of those products, and now you have to sell those products. And it's a great product, but you'll have to still make sure, you'll still have to kind of like hope that you'll have customers that would be needing your products, and not just a one-time thing, but on a routine basis, so that your income would be coming in routinely, right? Now, even with that one, when will you get your return of when will you get your investment back, right? Your return of investment. No offense to those business, but I'm just saying that I think this would be better, because your return of investment would be quicker. And once you have a quicker return of investment, all the other money that will be coming as an income would be your net income. Okay? Again, your net income, not I mean like your gross income, could possibly be 1 million pesos per year, and that is only again working as a nanny on the median wage of $14.11. What more if you're working and receiving a higher wage, let's say $20, which is the high range for a nanny, or 24.50 for a caregiver. All right, so there you go. So investment. So there is the administration fee of 48,000 pesos. And again, with this one, we would be the perks right now for joining us through this webinar, through this live stream, is that you will get your free unlimited Ielts review, and as well as your Ielts exam will be taken care of, right? The other expense would be your ECA, or Education Credential Assessment. Then you have your application fee of 255, your processing fee of 550, and then your medical exam and biometrics. So this is only for you as the principal applicant, okay, as the caregiver. And then later on, after 2 years of working as a caregiver or nanny, then the next fee would paid to the immigration would be 490. So your investment would be more than 100,000, 110. But again, your income for a year could be 947,520. So in 2 months' time, you have your investment already returned to you, and the rest would be your net income, right? And again, this is only for you. This 947 is only for you. This 110 would be only. This is your investment. Now, if your spouse is, if you have a spouse and then your spouse will also have some fee to be paid to the immigration. So 550 for the processing fee. This right for permanent residence for 90 will be paid later on after 2 years. And for your dependent child will be 150. And then and then medical exam and biometrics as well. So even though your spouse will be still paying some fee to the immigration, again, your spouse will have an open work permit and would potentially be earning 1,000, I mean, like not 1,000, but 1,000,000 pesos as well. Okay, and this is a retainer fee, which again is 50% off, so it's 2,500. And again, this is can be negotiated with the employer, so that would be the employer paying for this one. And yes, we have employers who have paid all of the expense for our caregivers. So there are employers such as that one, right? So I've said a lot of things, but I'll show you what is the flow really for this program. So first is the eligibility check. So we have to, at this stage, there's no commitment. You won't be paying anything for this one. We want to make sure first that you are eligible for this program, right? Because we won't be taking you if you are not, and we don't want to waste your time and money, right? So that's why we have this first step. Sorry, which is eligibility check. Then if we find that you are eligible for this program and that you can proceed to the next step, then we'll let you know, of course, and that would be the start of your application. And this would be the only time you'll be paying that initial 48,000 pesos. Okay, because we know that you are eligible for this program, right? So we won't be wasting your money and we won't be wasting your time as well. Once you have registered and we have cleared your payment, then we can go ahead and start the ball rolling. Get you, we'll coordinate with you when it comes to your Ielts review, your unlimited Ielts review, as well as your Ielts exam. Then we will also guide you for your evaluation credential assessment. Then prepare your documents for submission to IRCC, or the Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship of Canada, and then come to Canada. Again, if you have a spouse and children, your spouse and children are included in this application for your open work permit and permanent residency. So everyone will fly to Canada. No more waiting for 2 to 3 years before you see your spouse again or your children. So next steps, and this is only if, of course, if you are interested in this program and you think you meet the minimum requirement and you would like to avail the perks that we have mentioned, which is your free unlimited IELTS review, your IELTS exam, and representing you to our Canadian employers. So first step is please submit your resume to assessment at Roman Canadian romancanadianimmigration.ca. Again, submit your resume to assessment at romancanadianimmigration.ca. This is your by submitting, we will be doing our assessment on your app on your resume and see if you meet the minimum. And then if your resume, if there's some questions, of course we will be asking those questions to make sure that we are able to accurately assess your situation. On, on the subject line, when you submit your resume through email, on the subject line, please type in Caregiver Pathway Webinar, September 11. And this is important so that your resume doesn't get very buried with the other emails that we receive, right? We want to triage the email that we receive, and this is one way of doing it because we do receive hundreds of emails. Then if you are eligible, then we go to the next step, which is the registration process. Again, when you submit your resume, you don't need to pay anything on that one. We want to make sure first that you're eligible and we're not wasting your time. Then if you're eligible, then that would be the time you will go to the next step, which is the registration, start your application. That would be the only time you will be uh, paying that 48,000. Then we start your Ielts review. Okay. And that's it for me. That's everything about the new caregiver pathway that was launched in 2019. I'm hoping that you guys learned a lot of things on this one. If you have any friends, families that would benefit from this one, please do not hesitate to share this our Facebook page, our recording. This one will also be this is being recorded, so there'll be a recorded video later on our Facebook page, so you can go ahead and share that one as well. So for those people who joined us in our Zoom and Facebook Live, thank you so much. For those people who just finished watching this recording, thank you as well. I'm hoping that we'll be able to provide service for you guys. And now I'll just go ahead and hang tight here and wait for any